What's up, party people, and welcome to a brand new episode of Just Three with Joe. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. Joe Cardoza. Super excited to get the show started this week. I have a fantastic guest. Man, he is a man who wears many hats, from play-by-play, color commentary. He is Mr. DJ McPherson. We're going to have a nice conversation with DJ. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl, some of the NFL hirings and the lack of color that we've seen in those hirings. And we're also going to talk a little bit about his journey and how he started his career to get to where he is today. So without further ado, let's jump right into the conversation. I know you guys are going to enjoy this one. And like I said at the top of the show, each and every week, we always make sure to bring you the best guests from across the country, and this week is no different. Hailing out of New York, I want to bring on and welcome to Just Three with Joe, Mr. DJ McPherson.
Yo, what's going on, Joe? How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. What's good with you?
Man, I'm doing good. You know, we're starting to get a little warmer out here in New York. You know how it is. We got up to almost 50 degrees today. That's like, New Yorkers out here wearing flip-flops,
Yeah, it was pretty good down here in Maryland. We got to like 60. I'm not going to lie. I might have cracked the sunroof for like 2 seconds just to show off a little bit. It wasn't that warm. Man, it was better than what's been.
I be cracking the sunroof at like 38.
I can't go that hard.
I go hard with that. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show, man. So I can't wait to get this cracking. It's been a long time coming,
Yeah, nah, for sure. But good things come to those who wait is what they say. So yeah, like you said, let's get right into it, man. Of course, big topic of the day. NBA trade deadline was today. Lots of moves being made by teams, not named the New York Knicks. I guess we'll start with the big one today. They talked about a possible James Harden move. We weren't sure if it was going to happen or not. In the end, it does happen. James Harden, along with Paul Millsap, going to Philadelphia. You got the Brooklyn Nets, who will now get Ben Simmons, Steph Curry, Andre Drummond, and then 2 first-round draft picks. I mean, I guess my first question for you is, what was your initial view of this trade? Did you think it was going to happen, not happen? And when it did, what did you think?
You know what? I thought it was going to happen the whole time. The signs just started to say that things were falling apart in Brooklyn. As unfortunate as it is, and me as a Nets fan, even back when they were in New Jersey, it was, the signs were always there, man. 13 months ago, it seemed like it was heaven sent. James Harden comes to Brooklyn, and it's like they're on their way to a championship. But there is one cog in this system that I really think was the divider, and that's Kyrie Irving. And that's one thing that, I have no disrespect towards Kyrie. I love his game. I love him as a player. But I'll tell you what, man, he's just a loose cannon, you can't really trust Kyrie. Because last year, even before like all the COVID stuff and whatever, even after, that whole splash, Kyrie's taking, time off for personal reasons, not showing up. Stuff like this on top of the injuries, and he's been injury prone his entire career since Duke.
Facts.
Too. The 1 year in Duke, the 3 games he played. But that's been Kyrie's game, and he's always been sort of a loose cannon. So I always thought this was going to be a tricky thing, just with him and Kevin Durant throwing in James Harden, and then Kyrie going off the deep end. I saw this was a long time coming, especially after the COVID situation. Not having him there for the home games. You could subliminally hear it a lot in him in his post and pre-game interviews. It really rubbed him the wrong way. Kevin Durant's hurt. And Kevin Durant is really out here riding for Kyrie when you think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder how he feels. He came here because of Kyrie. He's telling them, the media, who am I to tell him, who am I to tell him, what to do with his body? I'm not going to tell him to get the vaccine. So he's riding with Kyrie. So in a lot of ways, it isolated James Harden. And it was all a dream. You know what I mean? Like 13 months ago, like they seemed to make it work, especially when KD was injured early on. And it was like, oh man, this is going to be great. Kyrie and Harden are out here lighting it up. And then, now here we are, but I'll say this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'll say this in my last point. It's going to be a great both teams are strengthened by this trade. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Now they got a guy. They gave up Steph Curry in Philly, yeah, but James Harden is a much better scorer and a much greater scorer than Seth Curry. You know what I mean? So it's you're giving a little for a lot in that situation. And Ben Simmons is in a situation where He rebounds, he plays defense great, and he doesn't have to shoot, you know? And KD and Kyrie will love that. So I think the Nets are even on an even bigger win here, you know? So we'll see how it goes. They're both going to be contending for the title, though, in the East. It's going to be those two teams.
Yeah, we got to see what kind of shape Ben's been in. I mean, he hasn't played ball since June, I want to say. So, I mean, you would hope as a professional athlete, this is what you do for a living. He's been in the gym getting his work. And, of course, you can't simulate actual NBA action. But we really hope he's been out there grinding and getting himself together, not just sitting on the couch paying the Philadelphia 76ers fine money. I wonder, how does KD feel about this now? I mean, like we talked about, been riding with Kyrie for so long. Now you see James left, and you know that he directly left pretty much because of Kyrie. I wonder, does KD have second thoughts about the decision?
You know, I'm not sure if KD's having second thoughts about it. I think he's going to ride out in Brooklyn, you know, longer than people think. We'll see what happens with that 4th and 5th year option. But I think he's still going to ride out with Brooklyn. You know, Brooklyn did him a huge favor in, you know, still signing him to a max contract and bringing him on after the Achilles injury, knowing he's not going to play the entirety of a season. So, you know, they looked out for him. You know, it's like they're paying him to sit in rehab, which, you know, is it shows the trust, it shows loyalty. Yeah. You got to do that. You got to bow down, you know, if you're going to make a big deal like that. Kind of like the way they did with giving up a really good big in Jared Allen originally for the James Harden trade. But you see now they got Andre Drummond. So I think that's, you know, a way to get that back, you know, so they're you know, tipping the balance their way in that regard. Because Philly gave up somebody who is right behind Joel Embiid, whose health can sometimes be questionable, although he's been good lately. So, you know, much the best to him. But I think right now KD is starting to make my point, but I think KD is definitely going to be, he's going to stay in Brooklyn. You know, for him to leave Brooklyn right now, I don't think it's the greatest idea, because when you think about it, where's he going to go? And nowhere in the West is not to say nobody will take him, but nowhere in the West I would see him getting back with a contender, unless it would be going back to Golden State, and I don't think he wants to go back down that road.
What about Portland? Just throwing it out there.
Portland, you know what? That might not be his scene. Actually, Portland is in the business right now of giving away players. So you know what that means. That usually leads to the big R. That's the rebuild coming. So I don't know about Portland, right? You're starting to see teams fleecing right now. You know, I think what Dallas did with the Porzingis trade, you know, not to go too off track here, but you know, you see with the Porzingis trade, Dallas gave up a lot to get back a lot of cap space, which means they're going to be building around in the free agency around their young stallion. You know, your boy Luka Doncic there for years to come. He's going into his prime. He's always been in MVP whispers, so they're looking to spend a lot of money around Luka in the coming off.
So if you're Dallas, you don't want Luka to be in his prime, and you haven't done anything to make the team be improved, and you lose him and he leaves for nothing. So I think Dallas is smart to try to get some cap space and bring some real good pieces in. The thing with KCP just didn't work, or KP with the Porzingis didn't work. You bring somebody else in, or somebody's else in, and see if you can get this thing right and make a real title chase.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's what they want to do in the next 2 to 3 years. That's Dallas's MO. You know, you see a young, great talent like Luka, much like you saw in Dirk Nowitzki years ago. And, I mean, they got the chip, even though it was later in his career, what have you. You know, but they still got the chip, and now it's part of the plan. And, you know, so I think they're trying to do that much sooner than later with Luka, because of the way free agency moves nowadays. You know, players don't stick around as long, and, you know, they'll move somewhere else really quick. So the quicker you can, you know, show that you want to put that team around them and show that you're serious about titles, you know, you're more likely to retain a guy for a decade plus, which is much harder to do in the NBA than, you know, any other sport right about now. Even the NFL, which is saying a lot, because the NFL is starting to make a lot of moves like that. You know, more player empowerment. Yeah. There's still, you know, not as much, but, you know, it's cracked a little bit for NFL players. So, you know, they're even moving a little quicker.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do get the sense that the NFL, the players at least want to get some more empowerment and start to be able to move around more freely like they do in the NBA. Some other teams that made some moves that was kind of interesting. I mean, man, this guy, Dennis Schroeder, can't get a break. I mean, he betted himself, wanted a whole bunch of money in the offseason, doesn't get it. I'm going to show you Lakers. I'm going to go to Boston. He goes to Boston. You out of here. And in the middle of the season, I mean, this kid could not catch a break at all.
He can't catch a break, but, you should have seen this coming. Dennis Schroeder, you know what, much like Kristaps Porzingis, who we just mentioned, at one point, these guys were stars, like Porzingis here in New York, your boy Schroeder down in OKC. I'm telling you, now they're just dudes in the league. And it's, that happens, man. It happens. And you start to become those names where you like talking to your boys, you like, me and you kicking it. And it's like, oh, he's still in the league? Like you get to those conversations. It's like he's still in the league. So, I mean, we're getting to that point. I mean, Kristaps is still a big name, but I mean, unless he gets around a system that really works for him, unless he can stay healthy, he's just becoming another dude in the league, man. You know what it's unfortunate for some guys, but that's life in the NBA, as they say, bro. How it is.
Yeah, nah, for sure. We can make a whole podcast about guys that we thought at one moment were going to be next, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reasons, like we mentioned, whether it be injuries, whether it be the situation they were put in, they just never took that next step to level up.
Andrew Wiggins.
Yo, you're talking to one of the biggest Andrew Wiggins haters in the world until this season. I didn't think it was never going to click. I thought the kid was aloof. I didn't think he took the game seriously. And now all of a sudden, I'm eating a lot of crow this season.
See, here's the thing. People just have it mixed up like this. In the NBA, not every number one overall pick is supposed to be guy A. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the truth. Not every number one overall pick is supposed to be your primary guy. Some of these guys are great guy B and even guy C, but they just assess it because he's athletic, he's this, he's that, he's a 6'10" guy who has ball handling skills, all this stuff. But it's like, what? But that's not the guy that can really carry a team. If you look at it, you look at the Duke situation. That really wasn't RJ Barrett. It was a little more RJ Barrett at the helm, but then you had those two powerhouses on the side, helping them out in Cam Reddish and Zion.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, he's in a situation where I think he's starting to flourish, and we'll get into the Knicks in just a minute. But, not every guy who's a top 3 pick is like supposed to be guy A. I think guys like James Wiseman and Andrew Wiggins are just in the right situation where they have that alpha dog in the locker room, 1A and 1A, with Clay being back now for Golden State. So they could be more comfortable. They can still be themselves, and they could be productive. That's what you're seeing with guys like Andrew Wiggins. Doesn't mean, just because you're the number one overall pick, doesn't mean you're going to be the next LeBron. Doesn't mean you got to carry the ball the whole time. That's just,
that's a good point.
You just can't take the talent and say, you're going to mold it into this great player. Sometimes the talent needs to be on the side. Scotty was the leading scorer, and Dennis Rodman in college. They were never, what I mean? That was never their role in the NBA, especially Dennis. Especially Dennis, who was dropping 28 points a game in college at one point, to finish the stretch of the season. But that was never his role in the NBA. He was a top 10 pick, but he was picked to be guy C, not even guy A. It was Isaiah and Joe.
Yeah, and being a young player on the Golden State Warriors too is a great situation because, like you said, you got Clay, you got Steph, you got Draymond, and then whoever you are, you're there. If you're even, you might be the 5th person on the team now with you got that emergency pool. So being a Wiseman, being Kuminga, being those young guys on Golden State, you're allowed time to develop, to get better. It's not like my Washington Wizards where when you get drafted, we expect like greatness day one. You have time to develop, get yourself used to the NBA lifestyle and game.
Yeah, absolutely. But speaking of your Wizards, I've always liked Rui Hachimura. I think he's going to be something different.
I need more. I need more from Rui. I need the next step. He's coming back from being out for mental health reasons and also a little bit of injury this season. I've definitely seen improvement over the last couple of games, but I need that next leap, which I think is going to probably happen next season. If he has a healthy offseason where he can focus on this game, he's right physically and mentally, I think next season's where you see him take that leap.
I think when they get rid of Bradley Beal, it's got to be his show. I also think because, sometimes that's what happens when there's another guy, kind of like what you're seeing in New York. And we should start to go into that. But Julius Randle's really he shouldn't be your number one ball handler and scorer.
Yeah,
I think RJ Barrett is ready to start stepping up into that role, but there's somebody blocking him right now. So in that regard, but that's going back to Washington to the Wizards, but that's kind of the situation out there. I think Rui can be that guy, but when you have somebody there, now don't get me wrong, Bradley Beal now has stepped down for the season. He's having the wrist surgery, so that's probably why you've seen this improvement. You're likely to see more. We'll see how Rui does, but that also, I don't know. That's your squad. I'll let you I'll let you talk about what they're going to do in their game plan with a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, if he's going to be the primary guy now, or is Kristaps still that dude who could be the primary scorer on the team? That's a question there in DC.
Yeah, we'll have to see that answer. I mean, in my opinion, I think Kyle Kuzma's the guy. I think that what I've seen from him this offseason, guy forgotten, butt of a lot of jokes when he played for the Lakers, having a real solid season for us this year. We're happy to have him. And that's a good question. Does Kristaps still have it? I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, obviously, we can say injuries, banged up, the Luka shadow, big shadow, overtaking him in Dallas. We'll find out the second half of the season what he's got left in the tank. And to your point, we'll see if we do see a new version of Rui Hachimura because he doesn't have Bradley Beal to worry about. He can just get the ball and play his game.
No, absolutely. A lot of times the confidence comes from just having the space to be yourself. And that's what young guys like Rui need, and we'll see how that space gives them. But let's get to them Knicks who, what,
sure.
I don't claim to be a psychic or what have you, but I hit you up last night. And I was like, it looks like our talk is going to be a lot about what Brooklyn did and what the Knicks didn't do.
You called it.
And I'm telling you here right now, these dudes just keep on dropping the ball. I mean, first, I look at their last 4 first-round draft picks: Frank Ntilikina, Kevin.
He's still
Knox.
in the league?
What's that? Yeah, he's still in the league. Then Kevin Knox, and then RJ Barrett in the top 3, and then Obi Toppin. I'm like, these are their last 4 first-round draft picks. I'm like, this is just like not working out for the Knicks. They don't make any moves. They should have gotten rid of Julius Randle for all the reasons that I just said.
Yeah, for sure.
Talking about how RJ Barrett is starting to come into his own, but he's not as consistent. But that's because Julius is taking the ball out of his hands. And this is becoming a disaster because Julius is not that guy. I'm not saying it was a fluke season, but it was just a one-off. Thibodeau's losing his magic. And I think what they should have done in the first place was I'm drawing a blank here for his name too. The former Nets head coach before they let Steve Nash.
Oh, Atkinson.
Excuse me, Kenny Atkinson.
Yep.
Before they let Steve Nash manage this team, Kenny Atkinson, they should have given him the job because Kenny Atkinson, he cultivates talent. He's better at developing a young ball club, and you saw what he did with Brooklyn. They made themselves attractive. Listen. Think about 2017 to 2019, from 2016 to 2019, those 4 years, how they really grew and developed those players. You think about Karis LeVert. You think about Spencer Dinwiddie. You think about the revitalization of when D'Angelo Russell. You look at the development. Look at the development of my man, the Fro, out there.
Jared Allen
out there in Cleveland now. This is what he's done, and they made it an attractive place to get guys like Kevin Durant, the best player in the NBA, to get, James Harden, the most prolific scorer since Jordan, and to get guys like Kyrie. So I think he could have done that with New York. Tibbs, he's more of just a grinder, and he's grinding these young guys out, and it's not going to work. So I think they got it wrong with the coaching. I think they got it wrong with several of their picks. I think they got it wrong with keeping Julius Randle. It's really time for RJ Barrett to step into his own if that's what you're going to do with the number 3 overall pick. But now you re-signed for too much money Julius Randle to this 4-year deal coming into this year, and it's you're at the point where it's going to cost you.
Yeah, and I also think too that RJ Barrett is New York. He's very, from the off the court, the on the court, the swag, he fits it. And no disrespect to Julius Randle. Some guys got it, some guys don't. And I think that because of the good season he had last year and people gassing him up in the offseason, media and alike fans, Julius thinks he's somebody as far as a basketball player. He's not. He's not that kind of basketball player. I think the Knicks need a better point guard, a guy that can distribute the ball. And I think, to your point, if I'm going to invest number 3 pick on RJ Barrett, let's see what he's got then. Let's give him the ball. Let's see what he's got. Let's surround him with talent, because what's going to end up happening is he's going to leave for nothing, go somewhere else and flourish.
That's it. And that's always what happens with talent like that, because somebody knows how to develop them better than a guy like, and not to say that Tibbs isn't a good coach, but you need more of a veteran grinding team for Tibbs. Tibbs would be great out in LA, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I think if he was out in LA on either one of those squads, Clippers or the Lakers, they'd be championship material. But that's that kind of squad. That's what they are out there. You got to develop these young guys before you grind them like that. And not to say you go soft on them. That's not the same thing. But it's like pitching, accuracy then speed. You know what I mean? You got to work on all the fundamentals first, and then you can just start getting out there, throwing the heat and be, all kinds of other stuff. But that's really what they developed with those guys in Brooklyn. Kenny Atkinson could have done the same had he went to New York. They got Tibbs. He's a good coach, but I think last year's performance shouldn't be indicative of what you should expect from the Knicks moving forward. It's just not going to happen. Not with Julius Randle at the helm.
I'm not sure. And I mean, of course, it depends on how things go. And they've been wildly inconsistent and up and down all season. But I'm not sure if Tibbs makes it to the end of the year.
This year, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say by All-Star break next year, no.
Okay.
You know what? You might be right. We'll see. I don't think they're totally going to slide off the scales here. If they do, you absolutely have a point. But this year, I don't believe so.
Well, when they get Derrick Rose back, who's a Tibbs guy through and through for obvious reasons, that might help them a little bit. But I'm with you. I think Julius Randle, I was shocked. I really thought he was going to move. You called it. You said they weren't going to do anything at all. And I was like, nah, they got to move Julius Randle. There's no way. But here we are. He's still a member of the New York Knicks. And talking about a team that's got to make a move, I'm at a loss, man. What are your thoughts on this year's version of the Los Angeles Lakers? I mean, my expectations weren't super high, but I ain't see this happening.
I didn't see it falling this far. They don't seem to be able to pull the nose up, but I'll tell you, I don't think that LA fleeced as much as they did to bring LeBron in and just have, don't get me wrong, this has been a success because they won a championship.
Yeah.
But if they only get one and in 4 years, that's the only time they make it past the first round of the playoffs. That's that's going to be it's not going to be seen like that much of a success. It's going to be seen more like that was a fluke year in the bubble. I'm not saying it was, that was an unfortunate year for everything that happened in basketball and sports life, the whole nine, but
yeah,
the game went on, and I don't know. I don't know, man. It's not exactly what they signed up for. They expected that to be continuous. But I hate to always do this, man, especially since he went back to Cleveland. But this is on LeBron's shoulders, as it has been every year since he's returned to Cleveland, because he has constructed the rosters that are around him. It's been largely because of the influence of LeBron James. That's great for player empowerment. But I'll tell you right now, Joe, the thing is, when the finger pointing comes down to how poorly the roster is playing together, they got to be pointing at the guy who's influencing this roster. I'm sorry, but that's it.
Nah, I agree with you 100%. I think the AD thing, I understand the attractiveness. He's a young guy. He had not tapped his full potential. I still don't think he's tapped his full potential, but he just cannot stay healthy, man. This almost reminds me of Mr. Glass. It's unfortunate, but he just cannot. If he could stay healthy, we've seen in the spurts he's played, he can be one of the most dominant players in the league. But the if is a big if. And the Russell Westbrook thing, I never made sense to me at all. As a Wizards fan, it was great to get from underneath the contract. But when I saw him get traded to the Lakers, I was like, how's this going to work? I didn't see that trade as wow, that's the missing piece. These guys are going to take it. I thought the Buddy Hield signing would have been much better, or even a J.J. Redick going to the Lakers would have been a bigger move than getting a guy, because Russ's game's not going to change. We know who he is. He's been this way his whole career. What do we think was going to happen when he put the purple and gold on?
Yeah, and you know what? Now you have two guys in Russell Westbrook and LeBron James who demand the ball 80% of the time on offensive possessions. So, listen, Russ ain't got no back down in him. You know what I mean?
So like he's from New York almost, but he's not.
Exactly. You know, Russ ain't got no back down in him. And that's the problem. Russ ain't got no back down. You know, he ain't got no you know, he can't go home. He's not one of them dudes, you know what I mean? So that I you know, Russ is gonna be Russ. But I'll tell you one thing, Russ should really be on a team like the Knicks, because what he does, say what you want about Russ. But if you look at every stop he's taken, especially in the last 4 years, look at his career, even through OKC, the Paul George years, what he did with Houston, you know, and what he did with Washington. You know, it may start off a little janky, but what he's done, he's raised the level of those young players he's been around, and they played better down the second half of the season. You look at how much better they did in Houston. You look at how much better they did, you know, with your Wizards last year with them down the season. Because, you know, he only knows one way. He plays hard. He works hard. That's the other thing that you don't hear about his greatness. He's a hard-working player. You know, he's at it every day, 24/7, and he showed a lot of these young guys how to do it. I think an attitude, a spirit like that on the New York Knicks would really change things in the culture in that locker room.
That's a good point. Get Obi Toppin straight.
Exactly. You know what those guys, and you would see how it changes. But I don't think that's necessarily needed in LA, you know, especially with a guy who demands the ball as much as LeBron James, with LeBron James on the team. So, you know, they just got it a little out of whack with that. You know, you get to a point where you're just adding names, I believe. You know, GMs do, LeBron does, and the names don't always match what you need. You know, names don't meet the needs, and sometimes you just got to Bill Belichick it and find what fits the system, no matter whose name it is.
Good point. I like that. Bill Belichick it. I like it. I'm gonna steal that one.
You got it, man. It's yours, bro.
Yeah, Rob Pelinka, definitely. I think you're right. I think it was, man, we have a chance to add Russell Westbrook to the team. Let's do it. But we didn't think about how does he fit what we have here, our culture. How does he fit on the court? And we're just not seeing it. Now, again, whole second half of the season left. Maybe they can figure something out and it can change things. I mean, I do think it's a playoff team. I think the Lakers make the playoffs, or at least a play-in game. But to your point you mentioned earlier, do the Lakers make it past the first round? I don't know. I'm not too sure about that one.
I don't know. The West is very strong this year. A lot of these young guns. And you know what? If they meet a team like Memphis in the first round, those kids ain't playing, man. Those kids aren't playing around.
That's probably one of my favorite teams to watch. I love John Morant. I tell people all the time, John Morant gives me serious Allen Iverson vibes. Just the fearless recklessness to go to the basket. He's a great teammate. I think the Memphis Grizzlies are on the rise for sure.
They are. And you know what I like? I was talking to somebody about this, and I was talking about how parallel-wise, I think the Wizards are like the Memphis Grizzlies of the East. You know, when you think about it, just the way that they can really be dangerous to somebody in the playoffs when it gets to that point. But, you know, John Morant, man, what can you say? Excuse me. They were the team that got it right in that big three draft. You know, let me say that again. What can you say about John Morant? I mean, that's the team. Memphis got it right in the draft, wedged in between Zion and RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, you know what he is to me? He's like, he could be AI, but greater. Because, you know, he's a little, you know, he's still slight like Alvin Iverson, but he could get a little bigger. You know, he's going to get a little bigger too. He's actually a little taller. I mean, I think, not to say Allen Iverson didn't work hard, but see, Allen Iverson's way to get ready to play basketball was to play basketball, not to be in the gym, you know, not being in the gym, not working on other things, always getting treatment and rehabbing. His thing was, you know, he never really hit the weights or anything else like that. He just played basketball. You know, he worked on hooping. And, you know, don't get me wrong. He is, to me, and I still believe this, the greatest natural talented player who ever played in the NBA.
Oh, wow. High praise.
Talented player. I truly now, you can make a case for guys like Kareem and stuff, yeah. But I think because AI just he just naturally could walk out there and to sort of speak bust ass, just by
Yeah.
being out there, he was just different, and it really proved. It's one thing to see a guy like that not play, but back to my point about John Morant, that's exactly what he could be and some. You know, we'll see what the future holds for him, but they got it right. That was the pick that got it right in between the two big picks of the last decade, Zion and RJ Barrett.
Now, the last topic I want to reach on this NBA before we move on is Damian Lillard. I'm a huge Dame Lillard fan. On the court, off the court, in the booth. That's my guy. But one of my all-time favorites, probably like my all-time top 3 favorite players in the NBA, is Kevin Garnett. And we know how many years he, quote unquote, wasted away playing for Minnesota, coulda, shoulda, woulda squads. Some squads that didn't make the playoffs. I see parallels with him and Dame. And I know it's all about loyalty. And when nobody gave him a chance, Portland gave him a chance, and he wants to stay loyal and 10 toes down, all that good feel-good stuff. But, man, isn't it time for him to leave?
It's time for him to leave, but Dame don't want to leave. That's why he hasn't left yet. And, from what you hear and from what those on the inside, they say all the time, and it's true, Dame Lillard loves Portland, and he wants to stay in Portland. He's going to stay in Portland unless they just move him. And I think it's time for him to leave. Personally, I think he'll come to his senses and he'll see all this movement around the league and just say, they're rebuilding, or they'll just have a amicable agreement. They'll come to, they'll just meet each other and just say, listen, we're going to rebuild and move on, which it looks like they're starting to do. CJ McCollum, the first piece to go.
Yeah.
So I believe that's what it's going to come down to. We'll see what happens in the future, but it's not going to be much longer for Dame Lillard out there. You wish it would have worked. It almost worked. He should be in New York, but I
was going to say that's another guy who I think is built for MSG. That place will be sold out.
They would be out, but I also feel like, you know what, that's the point guard the Lakers needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really, that's a guy that would definitely, and they need those buckets when AD and LeBron are out right now. So that would be perfect for them. But I don't know. We'll see how it all ends, especially now that he hasn't been moved this offseason, coming to the end of the Dame Lillard era in Portland. But it's soon to come. You'll see it happening.
Yeah, let's switch gears, man. Of course, the big event coming up this weekend is the Super Bowl in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Rams taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. I wonder how many people had the Bengals picked for their Super Bowl pick before the season started. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, the LSU boys. Of course, you got the Matt Stafford story out in L.A. They make a trade for Stafford, a guy who was just wasting away in Detroit. Big stat stuffer, but now the big-time wins, and now he's out there playing for the Rams with a host of other big names out there for LA. What are some of your early season thoughts on early thoughts on the upcoming Super Bowl?
All right, I'm about to go into a rant on you, Joe. Here's 3 things I'm gonna say about I'll tell you right now, I do believe the Rams could win, but we'll go into that whole prediction thing in just a couple minutes. 3 things, man. First of all, Matt Stafford is the least criticized number 1 overall pick of all time. All right, let's talk about a guy coming out of Georgia, got picked number 1 overall, and everybody seems to think it was just Detroit when the guy only went to 1 Pro Bowl in, his entire career. You know what I mean? So that's Matt
point right there. I didn't think about that.
He's the least criticized number 1 overall pick. So, I mean, that's my one point about Matt Stafford. Point number 2, Aaron Donald's the best player on the field in this Super Bowl.
Oh, absolutely. I told somebody the other day, and they told me they agree with me. In my opinion, best defensive lineman in the league since Reggie White.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And that's saying a lot about him and his longevity. He deserves a ring. And you know what? Shout out to the Rams for for fleecing all of these picks who in 2025, they're going to be sitting around waiting for the 3rd round to start. But shout out to the Rams for putting this together and having Odell Beckham on the team playing at the level that he started what was looking like a Hall of Fame career. Playing at this level when he came on there to be the number 3 receiver, Joe, if you remember, because they had Cooper Kupp and then Robert Woods. And if it wasn't for that, You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I believe, listen, this is going to be an exciting game because I still believe no matter how great that defense is, because, don't forget, they got a Super Bowl MVP on the other side of Aaron
Yeah.
Donald and Von Miller. And not that long ago either. I mean, calendar year, 6 years. We're talking, 2016 when they, in the year that they actually won this. So calendar year, yeah, just 6 years ago. I believe he can still play at a high level, and he's proven that. So the defense is, I want to see how Jalen Ramsey is going to play. That's going to be interesting. Is he going to?
It's a great matchup.
Your boy Jamar Chase. I want to see that matchup because that's going to be the most challenging one. We know how that front five is going to play, so they're going to be lights out. I like to see the Jamar Chase Jalen Ramsey matchup more than anything. That's going to be very interesting. But Joe Burrow, he's still proving that the kid can ball.
Yeah, he's a gamer.
He's a real gamer. This kid can ball. And it's so funny because I think the Cincinnati Bengals, front office people knew something because Cincinnati that was a black coach's job. And what I mean by that, Joe, is how they give these horrible jobs to black head coaches, you know what I mean, to start out. And they gave it to this guy, Zach Taylor. And I was like, I think they know something now all of a sudden because that should have been a brother in the Super Bowl, man.
Bring back Marvin Lewis.
yeah, right. Something, man. You see how they do him out here in Houston. It's like, come on, man. They should have given Josh McCown the job. Let a white man fail. You know what I mean?
See how it feels. Enjoy yourself.
Right. You take that shit job and see how that. I was like, nah, give that to Josh McCown. Yeah.
Could you imagine never in his life been a head coach? Come on, bro. I've been hilarious to watch.
Josh McCown coaches a high school football team. All right. Just everybody who's watching, Josh McCown coaches a high school football team. Lovie Smith went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman as quarterback.
Yeah, never forget it. Never forget that.
Just all right, back to my just throw that out.
You gave me 2 of your 3 rants.
You know what I mean? Like just throwing that out there, people. Anyway, so I mean, it's gonna be an incredible Super Bowl, and I think, man, if the Bengals pull this thing off, though, because Joe Burrow is special. Yeah. He is special, and so is Jamar Chase. And I didn't think that they should have made that pick. I thought that protection was going to be the best thing for him because he blew out his knee.
We all did.
They got him dropping back 60 times a game.
We're screaming, pick the offensive lineman from Oregon.
But you know what? It worked. It worked. So I got to give it to him. Although they owe him a line, so they better get busy in the draft and free agency after this. But look what he could do without it, though.
That's the scary part.
That is the scary part. And with that, I mean, I don't think Aaron Donald's going to let it happen. But but if it does, man, can you imagine? And Joe Burrow is the white man's version of the poor black athlete. You know what I mean? Who had the dream of making it to the league. Man, he gonna be out here selling all the Wheaties. Like he's just gonna be like. It's going to be Joe Burrow on everything with his own Fruity Flakes line and stuff like that. We're gonna have
gold chain line coming out.
The J-Bo gold chain, they're going to put that J-Bo on a pair. I think he's got an endorsement. Clearly, he has an endorsement deal with Nike.
Yeah.
So, they're going to put that on a pair of cleats. It's going to go crazy. Watch. They got J-Bo t-shirts coming now. Watch.
I mean, the biggest thing is with me, because of that pass rush, it's got to be 2-3 steps, plant your foot, and get it out of there. There's not going to be time for slow developing routes and double moves. Your offensive line proved against a Tennessee Titans defense that, in my opinion, is 9 sacks, and now you're going up against what we just said, the greatest defensive lineman in the last 20-something years, and Von Miller, and Floyd, and the rest of that crew. And even though he just came out the couch, Eric Weddle. I mean, you got to 3 steps and let it fly, bro. You can't be standing around there thinking about things or you'll get crushed. Who's the Bengals backup quarterback?
That's a good question. But, I mean, just the way that Joe Burrow was out there getting away from these guys, you know what I mean? Even in Tennessee, he got sacked 9 times. But if you look at all the plays where he was still getting out of the pocket with just under 3 seconds, to get the ball out, just getting out of the pocket, making great plays. You saw him do that a lot in the AFC title game against the Chiefs. Joe Burrow's ability, it kind of gives you a little bit of an edge to say, I wouldn't go all the way with that opinion. Not to disrespect, I'm not saying, what you're saying isn't wrong, but I just wouldn't give that, I wouldn't put my pet, I wouldn't really just go all the way with that personally, only because I just see it like Joe Burrow still has that innate ability to get out of anything. He's just like, he can escape any pocket, any pressure. And you know what? As great as it's going to be, guys like that can still find a way to make plays. So I think it's going to be that's why I don't think this is going to be a total blowout. Unless it is, we'll see how this thing starts off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's going to be very telling, those first few drives, because if the Rams just come out and totally suffocate them and they get ahead by a score or two, then there's just going to be no coming back for that Cincinnati offense. They haven't always played well from behind, even though in the playoffs they did.
Yeah.
They look like a totally different animal from what you saw in the regular season. But we're going to have to see how it starts, because if they could keep that pressure on them for 4 quarters, it's going to be a wrap pretty early for the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, too, Matthew Stafford, the least scrutinized #1 pick of all time, it's his first time in the Super Bowl as well. So I'm sure the jitters are going to be flowing. Maybe if you're the Bengals, you get a pick, you get a fumble from him or one of the players from the Rams that doesn't have a lot of experience, because everybody's going to have jitters out there. I mean, it all depends but I think it's more important for Cincinnati to get off to a good start than it is for the Rams, in my opinion. Like you just said, I think if you're Cincinnati, we can't be going behind 14-0, 21-0. We need a big play, or at least to have a solid start to get our legs under us, to get ourselves comfortable, and then just start rocking and rolling and playing our game.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to take like those first couple of drives, and we'll see how it starts. But you talked about get a big developing play downfield. That's what you want to do with a guy like Jamar Chase. I don't know if that's going to be so formidable, though, because they get pressure from the out and inside with Aaron Donald. That's the thing. Once you create the pocket, he'll collapse it, and you still got Von Miller coming from and Floyd coming from the outside. It's going to be a very tenuous situation on Sunday. If anything.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough, but I'm hoping for a good game, and of course, like most people, I'm excited for the halftime show. Don't jack it up, NFL.
Yo, let me tell you, this is the one time that a Super Bowl is like a HBC or
HBCU,
an HBCU classic where they coming for the halftime show and not the game. I mean, like, that's what they showing up for. I haven't watched the halftime show since Prince, man. I ain't going front. So
I didn't know how many minutes it is, because how they going to jam all this in? Like, I mean, I was thinking about this. I don't know, running the random things you do when you're driving to work. On the way to work today, I was like, does Kendrick Lamar go first because he's the youngest guy? And then do you go M to get him out the way? And do you go Mary J? And then it's Dre and Snoop last because they're from California? And if they are last, how long are they on there? Or do they all do a jam up of all the different songs, a mashup? I wonder how they're going to play this.
I think it's going to be Dre coming out first. Okay. And then he's going to play. He's going to go back to his, producer DJ days. He's going to keep bringing them out one by one by one. This is the Dre's Greatness show. Yeah. All of these artists were signed to Dr. Dre at one point.
Yeah, now it's gonna be exciting. It's definitely gonna be fun. I'm excited to see it. Hopefully the halftime show is as exciting as the game we hope it's gonna be. Both of them. I don't want double flops. Don't give me a weak halftime show and a weak game. I need something good.
No matter how good this game is, the halftime show is going to be better.
Yeah. We agree on that.
No matter if this game could go into double overtime, but we still going to be talking about this halftime show.
You're right about that. And they never miss an opportunity for PR. So I'm calling it right now. Don't be surprised a new Kendrick Lamar or anybody out there single drops literally at halftime.
Oh, it's coming. You know what? It might be the Mary J. Blige and Kendrick Lamar, single dropping or whatever, or Kendrick featuring Mary. It's coming. Listen, this halftime show is going to be like Summer Jam. So I'm wondering it. Let me ask you, man.
Who you think can bring friends?
Who do you think's who's going to be that guest appearance coming out? Who's going to be the friend?
I didn't think about that. Well, none of these guys have songs with Drake, right? I don't think so. No.
Yeah, Mary J. Blige.
Where the hell have I been? What song is that?
Me and Mr. Wrong.
Oh, okay. Well,
Check
I
that out.
mean,
Yeah, check that out. I ain't gonna sing it, but yeah, me and
yeah, that's a good point about the friends thing. I didn't think about that. Oh, that's going to happen. You know it will, especially with Dre. The Rolodex Dre has, people he can bring out there. You know it's going to happen.
I have a feeling Jay-Z's gonna be the friend.
Yeah, I mean he's the one that
That's what I'm
behind all this
saying,
stuff.
right?
He hasn't done it yet.
You ain't gonna have me on the halftime. Like Jay, Jay put this all together. You ain't gonna have him come. Oh, come on now. I feel like Jay-Z gonna show up, and if Jay-Z show up, B gonna show up because just for the sake of it.
Highest rated halftime show.
Exactly.
I know the Michael Jackson one was awesome, and I didn't watch the Beyonce one. Shame on me, but I heard it was really good. But like you said, if Jay shows up on this, ratings through the roof.
Yeah. So it's definitely. I think like Jay put this all together. Jay got to show up. You know,
it's gonna be.
You don't hear that cough in the back. It's like, like Jay coming out the back. So it's going to be bad, man. And I'm happy to see hip hop, take a prominent stage at the halftime show too. Well deserved, long overdue.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the number one music worldwide, hip hop, the most influential music worldwide. If you look at even pop records, country, all you know what I mean. So much by blues, of course, coming from that. But so hip hop it really does, run the world. Fashion, everything that that you see is really a lot of hip hop. So it's great to see it on the biggest stage in the biggest sporting event of the year. So
yeah, that's gonna be hella dope. I'm definitely excited about that, man. Well, hey, the last topic of the show is always my favorite topic, and that's to just get to know about you. Obviously, how'd you get started in your career with sports? I know you wear many hats. You're always busy on the grind. I definitely know that you're the man behind the mic. So I just wanted to kind of ask you, how'd you get started? Kind of what sparked your interest in sports, and then getting into the media world, and then let's go down the list of all the different gigs and jobs you have right now.
Oh man, you know what? It's funny. I'm speaking of jobs, and I'll get into that in just a second, but this is the time of year where I finally get to have a break. Basketball season's coming to an end, and I start with all my other stuff in the summer, whether it be wrapping up baseball, going into football for different teams. I do three different teams, so and now in basketball. So man, it's going to be a well-deserved break.
So your prep game must be crazy then.
Yeah, schedule is always crazy, but it's going to be a great break. But going back to it, sports has always been life, man. Life is sports. I've been playing football since the age of 6. From Pop Warner all the way up to playing on St. John's for the last team that St. John's University fielded, years ago. So that was pretty much where football also ended for me too around that time. But I've always been interested in the media side of things. And being on that side of sports ever since I was young, just as much as I have in the sport itself. I remember, my father, when I was younger, he was a preacher on top of being a trooper. So okay. I remember so many times, like my dad, he played ball for 1 year for Jim Boeheim in Syracuse. So he was always, so growing up, it was like, right after church, we were always listening to Marv Albert, had to listen to the Knicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
every other night, listen to the Knicks. I always got interested in that, and I always, thought that that's what I wanted to do. As I got older and got, more out of playing and more into the media side. And, years later, I stepped away from doing business to really pursue that. And I got into it. My first job really, where I got to be in the broadcasting booth, was in minor league baseball.
Okay.
So that was really interesting some years ago. And man, it was just like, it's funny. I wasn't in double or triple A. I was in no affiliate league, Atlantic League baseball. I'm not gonna shout out the team, but it was in the Connecticut area or whatever. You just used to travel up from New York up 95. And man, I tell you, it wasn't a move up league, it was an end up league. So a lot of dudes It was funny. It was like a lot of dudes that were kind of washed or from the major leagues were in there. It was like major league with the comical stuff that happened, man, on those teams. It was crazy, Joe. I'm telling you. And but it really groomed me. You know what I mean? I loved it. I learned how to work within the business too. And even like the tough side of the business, being one of the only black men in the booth pretty much everywhere I go. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
And starting off in baseball, is literally, only brother around, you know what I mean, on that level. So it really taught me a lot of perseverance too in this business. Things that could, that happened early on could have really stolen my joy, but I didn't let it stop me. So, I'm just glad I kept going even from that. But from minor league baseball to doing, 6A high school football on the radio, doing play-by-play for my old high school, that I'm doing now too as well.
Very cool.
And pre and post game for 14:20 a.m. Army football here at West Point, New York. All in one weekend. I don't know how I got. I was like,
whoa,
passing out, man. I was passing out every weekend between doing play-by-play and color commentary. For the schools, and
that's
then
a lot of prep. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then on the weekends, hitting Army football, and man, and then that was the joy. But it's the joy. It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I didn't mind. I never minded traveling. Way out. Schools out by State College, PA. Doing games all the way out there for big schools, or Milford, Pennsylvania. Back in my hometown, where I grew up, over in Middletown, New York. Doing the historic Bell game over there. It's a 135-year-old tradition. It's great. We had 10,000 people out there. It's a huge game. And then showing up, being able to be at West Point on Saturday, this past season, it was just an honor to do it. You know what I mean? No matter what, it was like. And I'll tell you, Joe, I've been doing play-by-play in color for 6A high school football in PA for some years now, and it's some of the best talent too out there. And let me tell you, man, I did a game in Williamsport, PA, between the Williamsport Millionaires and Delaware Valley. The team that I've been a part of for years now, and 4 of those guys are now in the league.
Oh,
that
wow.
was 2016.
Okay, and for people who don't know, 4 is a lot.
4 is a lot from the same game between the two teams.
That's wild.
Like that's what I'm saying. You don't always see that, except for like some of those, major schools down St. Thomas Aquinas, the one in New Jersey and in Florida, or what have you. You know what I mean? Some of those bigger schools in Texas. But man, like just to watch that kind of talent, I'm watching guys like Patrick Body Jr., who's a commit to Cincinnati. Man, I watched him earlier this season. I called a game with that kid, 6'3", 180. He was just like, it looked like Randy Moss out there just killing these kids. I mean, so I've been just blessed to do this. Also traveling with briefly the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then for years, the Harlem Wizards, from all over this country, all over the station. I got to travel to China when I was doing that, with the Harlem Wizards, and got to meet guys like Steph Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo, just hanging out with, just being all over the place. I mean, it was all a dream. You know what I mean? I think about it like that, just like being able to do what I'm doing now, man. It's a blessing, and it's like it never really feels like work, even though some nights you're just tired.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that one.
Games, for sure. Doing radio in the morning and stuff, like it's like it is tiring, but you just love it. You know what I mean? And when you love what you do, it never feels like work. I'm still gonna miss it, from working in mid-August so all the way to now, till March, early March, when basketball season ends. I'm doing for a D2 college basketball now. So so it's a grind, man. But the second it's over, and you get some time off, my off season to kind of relax. you start to miss it, man. You just like, you're
I
like,
can
man,
imagine.
hey, looking at the clock, like, ain't no games I'm getting ready for tonight. Ain't no weekend. My weekends normally filled up with like sports, being a part of it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I was gonna say, what do you do now?
Well, now I got a baby on the way. She's
Oh,
doing in
congratulations.
July. Thank you. So I'm doing I'm doing a lot of projects Mama has me doing. So I'll say that's
Honey
what I'm
to-do
doing.
list heard. I got you, honey to-do list.
Man, we're painting, we're clearing out the baby's room, doing this, doing the, I'm gonna be taping up, painting all weekend. So it's gonna be a lot of projects, man. So up until the season starts again, I got weekends full. You know what I mean? So I'll be all good. You know what I mean? So I mean, like it just started from back then, man, and just being here where I am now, so many. Just man, we could do a whole podcast on the stories, the times, being on the road, stuff that happens in the booth. It's just all a huge blessing, man. Just meeting people, not just from the people, the players I've met all around the country and all around the world. It's just also being able, sometimes I just think about how it's like, man, years ago I stepped away from something and to get into this, and it's like, I'm glad I made that decision. You know what I mean? I'm glad I made that decision. I'm glad I got back into what I really loved in life, and it's been a blessing ever since. I can't wait to take it to the next level. So and to do more things, man, to do bigger things too with it. So who knows? We'll see, man. Maybe I'll be behind the mic on the floor with the Knicks, doing
Hey, I
feet
mean,
with the
with the
Knicks.
work ethic you have, I wouldn't be surprised at all, man. I wouldn't be
Man,
surprised at all, for
I
sure.
appreciate it, Joe, man. I appreciate it. I'm just out here loving life, doing it one day at a time, though. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens, man. We'll see. We'll keep grinding, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's all we can do. Nah, no doubt, man. Definitely appreciate you sharing your story for sure.
No, definitely, man. Thanks for and thanks for having me on, man. This has been great, Joe. Love kicking it with you. We gotta do this again too.
Oh yeah.
Listen, we definitely got to do this coming up because we got a lot to talk about in 3 days, man. We got Super Sunday coming up, so
Yeah.
it's going to be time, definitely. So whenever we could do this again, man, you know what I mean. I got the time and space for you now, so
Okay. Nah.
I can't wait to do it again, bro.
I won't pick a weekend because I don't want your wife getting on me. But I'll find a weekday. We'll link up. We'll make it happen for sure. I'm not gonna tell you Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, nah, definitely. I'll be too busy putting another hole in the wall around here or something like that.
No, but definitely, I want to thank you for coming on the show, DJ. Like you said, we're going to link up and get back together and chop it up again real soon, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, Joe, man. Appreciate you having me on. Glad to be here with Just Three with you, Joe. And yeah, let's do this again, brother. Next time. Always more stories to share, too.
I thought it was a good thing, man. Oh, yeah. And before we get out of here, let people know how they can follow you, man. What's your handle on Twitter if you're an Instagram guy, so we can get some people that want to follow you for sure.
I'm not totally big on Instagram, but y'all could go ahead and follow me. It's the same as my Twitter handle. Very active on Twitter. It's at DJ The Voice. That's DJ DA Voice. Same thing with Instagram. You could go ahead and check me out there. I'm always posting, checking out games and stuff, whatever is in my reels and stories. It's funny. I'll be, you'll be hearing me. I'm posting about game. I got a game this weekend, this Sunday on Super Bowl Sunday because postponement, COVID cancel, COVID postponement. So we're just scattering games whenever we can. So, I'll be running home. Coming out of Flushing, Queens, man, just like on the bridge, just like going 100, trying to get home for that after that game. But yeah, you check me out, DJ The Voice. Links to everything else that I do, where I'll be, where you can live stream a game that I'm doing, all that stuff. Check me out, man. Appreciate it, Joe.
Cool, man. No doubt, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Joe. I'll talk to you soon, man. Peace and love. Thanks for having me.
Take care, brother.
Yep.
And I want to thank my guest, Mr. DJ McPherson, for joining me on my show this week. As always, make sure you check out all the wonderful content available for you at 19mediagroup.com. We run these content streets. And I also want to shout out our YouTube channel sponsor, and that is Rich Kid Clothing Line. Until next time, I'm Joe Cardoza. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I'll talk to you guys soon.